The night wind moved slowly through the village of Indam, carrying the smell of dry earth, palm oil, and old firewood. The moon hung low and red, like a watching eye. Drums sounded far away, slow and heavy, as if the land itself was breathing. In the center of the village stood Zalika, a black woman known for her calm spirit and strong hands. She was the wife of Chief Corrado, a respected man whose words once carried wisdom like rain. Zalika had married him when she was young, believing his smile and his promises. She had cooked for him, prayed for him, and walked beside him through many seasons. But this night was different. The elders had called everyone to the open ground near the sacred baobab tree. Firelight danced on dark faces. Hunters stood with their spears. Women wrapped in bright cloth whispered to one another. Children were silent, sensing danger in the air. Zalika stood alone. Chief Corrado stood across from her. Beside him was Naomi, a young woman with painted eyes and a sharp smile. Naomi wore red beads meant only for wives, not mistresses. That alone was an insult. The elder Baba Kintu, old as the hills, raised his staff. "We are here because truth has been dragged into the light," he said. "Let it speak." Before Zalika could open her mouth, Naomi stepped forward. Her bangles clanged like angry spirits. She looked straight at Zalika, lifted her hand, and slapped her cheek. The sound cut through the night like a broken drum. Gasps rose from the crowd. The fire cracked loudly. Zalika's head turned, and her cheek burned like it had been touched by fire ants. She tasted blood. But she did not fall. She did not cry. Then came the sound that broke her heart. Chief Corrado laughed. It was not a small laugh. It was loud and proud. A laugh without shame. Some people looked away. Others watched, frozen. The drums stopped. In that moment, something ancient woke inside Zalika. Something older than marriage. Older than pain. Older than fear. She lifted her eyes slowly. Not to her husband. Not to the mistress. She looked toward the forest. Beyond the village, the forest stood dark and deep. It was a place of spirits, where ancestors walked and secrets lived. Zalika felt the wind shift, as if someone unseen had stepped closer. Long ago, Zalika's grandmother had warned her, when the living forget respect, the spirits remember. Zalika remembered now. Chief Corrado wiped his eyes, still smiling. "You see," he said to the elders. "This woman has lost her place. She cannot even defend herself." The words cut deeper than the slap. Baba Kintu frowned. "Chief, your laughter is heavy with shame." But Corrado waved his hand. "Enough. I have chosen Naomi. Zalika is nothing now." The crowd murmured like restless bees. Zalika bowed her head, not in defeat, but in silence. Her long shadow stretched across the ground, touching the roots of the baobab. Firelight flickered, and for a brief second, her shadow seemed to move on its own. No one noticed, except the ancestors. A cold breeze passed through the circle. The flames bent low. An owl cried from the forest. Zalika turned and walked away without a word. Behind her, Naomi laughed softly. Chief Corrado did not stop her. Zalika walked past mudhouses, past sleeping goats, past the river that whispered old songs. Her tears did not fall. They stayed inside, burning. She reached her hut at the edge of the village. Inside, the air was thick with memories. A mat. A pot. A necklace given on her wedding day. She took the necklace and dropped it into the fire. The flames hissed. Outside, the wind grew stronger. Zalika stepped out and faced the forest again. The moon hid behind clouds. Darkness wrapped around her like a cloak. "Ancestors of my blood," she whispered, her voice steady. "I have been shamed before the living. Hear me." The ground felt warm under her feet. From the trees came a low sound, not quite a voice, not quite the wind. Zalika's heart beat fast, but she did not turn back. Far away in the village, Chief Corrado raised a calabash of palm wine, still laughing, still blind. He did not know that the laugh that left his mouth had already awakened something ancient. And Zalika, quiet, wounded, and watching, had just taken her first step toward revenge. The night closed its eyes, but the spirits did not sleep. The forest swallowed Zalika as she walked deeper into its shadow. Tall trees rose like silent elders, their roots twisting over the earth like old fingers. The air was cool and heavy. Crickets sang. Leaves whispered secrets she could not yet understand. Zalika did not carry a torch. She let the moon guide her, even when clouds hid its face. Her bare feet knew the paths her ancestors once walked. Long ago, women of her blood had come here when the world turned against them. The wind brushed her ears. Granddaughter. Zalika stopped. Her breath caught in her throat. The sound did not come from behind or ahead. It came from everywhere. I have come, she said softly. I have been broken. The forest answered with silence. She walked until she reached the old baobab, older than the village itself. Its trunk was wide like a mountain, its bark carved with marks left by forgotten hands. This was where the elders once spoke to the spirits before fear chased wisdom away. Zalika knelt. Memories rose in her mind, her grandmother grinding herbs, her mother humming spirit songs, her own laughter before marriage stole her voice. The ground trembled slightly. A shape formed near the roots of the baobab. Smoke at first, then light. Then figures, men and women dressed in cloth of another time. Their eyes glowed like fireflies. The ancestors had come. Zalika pressed her forehead to the earth. I did not come for anger, she said. I came for justice. A tall woman stepped forward. Her hair was white like ash, her skin dark and strong. Justice has a price, the spirit said. Zalika lifted her head. I will pay it. The spirit studied her. Your husband has laughed at shame. His heart has turned to dust. Do you still love him? Zalika's chest tightened. I loved who he was, she said. Not who he has become. The ancestors murmured like wind through dry leaves. Another spirit spoke, a man with a hunter's scar across his chest. Revenge burns both hands, he warned. Are you ready to be burned? Zalika closed her eyes. The slap. The laughter. The crowd's silence. Yes, she said. The baobab groaned. Its roots shifted, opening a small dark hollow in the earth. From it came the smell of iron and rain. The tall woman reached inside and pulled out a small calabash, carved with symbols that moved like living things. This holds the truth of hearts, the spirit said. It does not lie. Zalika took it. It felt warm. You must not strike with your own hand, the spirit continued. Let the village see. Let the spirits judge. Zalika nodded. Far away, drums began to beat in the village. Faster. Louder. The ancestors faded like mist at sunrise. Remember, the tall woman's voice echoed. Pride walks ahead of ruin. The forest grew quiet. Zalika rose and turned back toward the village. The calabash hung at her side, heavy with unseen power. When she reached the river, she washed her face. The water reflected her eyes, now sharp and steady. She no longer looked like a woman who had been slapped. She looked like a woman chosen. In the village, Chief Corrado sat among men, drinking and boasting. Naomi sat close to him, her laughter loud. She wore Zalika's old beads. Thunder rolled in the distance. An elder entered the circle, breathless. The spirits are restless, he warned. The baobab groans. Chief Corrado scoffed. Old trees make old sounds. Lightning flashed. At the edge of the village, Zalika stopped. She watched the firelight dance, heard the drums beat like a racing heart. She did not rush. She waited. Because the ancestors had begun to move. And the village of Indam was about to hear the truth beneath the laughter. Morning came slowly to the village of Indam. A grey mist lay low over the huts and paths. Roosters crowed, but their voices sounded weak, as if the air itself was tired. The drums of the night before were silent, yet their echo still lived in the hearts of the people. Zalika returned at dawn. She walked through the village gate as the sun rose behind her. Light touched her face, calm and firm. In her hand, wrapped in plain cloth, was the small calabash of truth. It made no sound, but she felt it pulse like a living thing. People noticed her at once. Whispers moved faster than footsteps. That is Chief Corrado's wife. She went into the forest at night. Why does she look like that? Zelika did not answer anyone. She walked straight to the open ground beneath the sacred baobab tree. The elders were already gathering. Baba Kintu leaned heavily on his staff. His eyes widened when he saw Zelika. "You returned," he said quietly. "Yes," Zelika replied. "And I did not return empty." The elders exchanged looks. The baobab leaves rustled, though there was no wind. Soon, Chief Karedo arrived. He wore fine cloth and gold rings. Naomi followed him, smiling, her chin lifted high. When she saw Zelika, her smile faded for a moment, then returned, sharper than before. "So the silent woman has found her voice," Karedo said. "Have you come to beg?" Zelika met his eyes. She felt nothing. No love. No fear. "I have come to speak truth," she said. The crowd grew. Hunters leaned on their spears. Women gathered their children close. Even the birds grew quiet. Baba Kintu raised his hand. "If truth walks among us," he said, "we must listen." Zelika stepped forward. She unwrapped the cloth and lifted the calabash. Symbols on it shimmered like water in sunlight. "This calabash was given by the ancestors," she said. "It shows the heart as it truly is." Naomi laughed. "Tricks," she said. "Old woman stories." The calabash shook. A low hum filled the air. The fire pit, cold since night, suddenly sparked. Smoke rose, thick and dark. Zelika turned to Naomi. "Place your hand on it," she said. Naomi hesitated. Her eyes flicked to Karedo. "Do it," Karedo said quickly. "Let the people see how foolish this is." Naomi placed her hand on the calabash. At once, the smoke twisted and formed shapes. Voices poured out, soft at first, then clear. "I want his power, his name, his house." Naomi screamed and pulled her hand away, but the voices did not stop. Images filled the smoke. Naomi pouring herbs into Karedo's drink, whispering lies, laughing alone in the dark. The crowd gasped. Naomi fell to her knees. "Stop it," she cried. Zelika turned to her husband. "Your turn," she said. Karedo's face darkened. "I am chief," he said. "I answer to no pot." Thunder rolled overhead. Baba Kintu struck the ground with his staff. "No one is above truth." Slowly, Karedo placed his hand on the calabash. The ground shook. The smoke rose higher, thicker, darker. It showed Karedo standing before the ancestors in dreams, turning away. It showed him laughing at the elders, breaking promises, choosing pride over duty. Then came the loudest sound of all, his own laughter, echoing, empty and cruel. The calabash cracked. Karedo screamed and fell back as if struck. The crowd stepped away from him. Silence followed, heavy and deep. Zelika lowered the broken calabash. Her hands were steady. "This is the truth," she said. "Not my revenge." Naomi crawled away, her fine beads scattered in the dust. Karedo sat alone, his power broken like dry wood. The baobab tree groaned. A single leaf fell and landed between Zelika and Karedo. Baba Kintu spoke. "The ancestors have spoken. What was hidden is now seen." Zelika looked at her husband one last time. "You laughed when I was shamed," she said. "Now the village sees who you truly are." She turned away. Behind her, the wind rose, carrying the sound of distant drums. The turning point had come, and nothing in Indam would ever be the same again. The truth did not end the matter. It only opened the wound. After the smoke faded and the calabash lay broken on the ground, the people of Indam stood in silence. No one moved. No one spoke. The air felt heavy, as if the spirits were still watching, waiting to see what the living would do next. Chief Karedo slowly pushed himself up from the ground. His face was pale, his eyes wild. The gold rings on his fingers suddenly looked like chains. "This is a lie," he shouted. "Spirit tricks. Jealous magic from a bitter woman." His voice cracked, but his pride did not bend. Some men shifted uneasily. Power had fed them for years. Truth frightened them. Naomi, her fine cloth now dusty, crept behind Karedo like a frightened child. "They will kill us," she whispered. Corrado raised his chin. No, he said. I will not fall. He turned to the warriors. I am still your chief, he commanded. Arrest her. The word hit the ground like a stone. 2 warriors stepped forward. Their spears trembled in their hands. They looked at Zalika, then at the elders, then at the baobab tree. Baba Kintu's voice rose, sharp and strong. Do not raise steel against the will of the ancestors. But Corrado shouted louder. I rule this land. The drums began to beat again, fast and angry. Women cried out. Children screamed. Zalika did not move. She felt a pain deeper than the slap now, a pain of knowing the man she once loved was truly gone. Still, her face remained calm. I will not fight you, she said softly. Your fight is with yourself. Her words only fed Corrado's rage. Take her, he roared. The warriors hesitated one last time, then lowered their spears. At that moment, the sky darkened. Clouds rolled in fast, swallowing the sun. Wind tore through the village, lifting dust and leaves into the air. The baobab tree creaked loudly, its branches twisting like arms. An elder woman screamed, The ancestors are angry. A deep voice rose from the wind, not loud, but powerful. Enough. Everyone fell to the ground. From the shadow of the baobab stepped a figure made of light and smoke, the spirit guardian of Indam, a being spoken of only in old songs. Its eyes burned like fire. Its voice shook the bones. Chief Corrado, the spirit said, you have broken sacred law. You chose pride over people. Corrado crawled backward, his strength gone. I'm chief, he whispered weakly. The spirit's voice was calm and final. You were. A loud crack echoed as one of the baobab's branches fell, striking the ground between Corrado and the people. The elders lifted their heads. Baba Kintu spoke with tears in his eyes. By the will of the ancestors, Corrado is stripped of his title. A cry rose from the crowd, shock, fear, relief, and sorrow mixed together. Naomi wailed and clutched Corrado's arm. What will happen to us? The spirit turned its gaze to her. You fed your hunger with another's pain, it said. You will leave this land before sunset. She screamed as the wind pushed her back, toward the forest path. Then the spirit faced Zalika. The village held its breath. Zalika, daughter of the soil, the spirit said, you stood without violence. You let truth speak. What do you ask? Zalika's eyes filled with tears, not of anger, but of release. I ask for peace, she said. For the village. And for my heart. The spirit nodded. Peace is earned. The clouds slowly parted. The wind softened. The spirit faded into the bark of the baobab, leaving only silence behind. Corrado sat alone, broken, stripped of power. Zalika walked away from him, her heart heavy but clean. Yet deep inside, she felt it, the ache of loss, the death of a dream. Victory did not taste sweet. It tasted like truth. And the greatest test was still to come. The sky opened in pale gold and gentle blue, washing away the red of the past night. Birds returned to the trees. Smoke rose from cooking fires. The village breathed again, slow and careful, like a wounded body learning to heal. Zalika stood beneath the sacred baobab as the first light touched its bark. The great tree was quiet now. No groaning. No shaking. Only stillness. The elders gathered around her. Baba Kintu spoke, his voice steady. The ancestors have shown us the path. Indam needs a heart that listens, not a mouth that laughs at pain. The people formed a wide circle. Women, hunters, warriors, mothers, children, all watching. You stood when shame tried to bend you, Baba Kintu continued. You spoke truth without blood. You chose mercy when fire demanded flesh. He lowered his staff and bowed. We ask you, Zalika, to lead this village. A wave of breath moved through the crowd. Zalika's heart pounded. She looked at the faces around her, faces that once watched her humiliation in silence. Faces that now held hope. I am not a queen, she said quietly. I am a woman who was hurt. Baba Kintu nodded. And that is why you are fit. The wind stirred the baobab leaves. Drums began to beat, not fast, not loud, but deep and steady. Healing drums. Zelika closed her eyes. She remembered the slap, the laughter, the fire, the mercy. She opened her eyes again. If I lead, she said, it will not be with fear. It will be with listening. No woman will be shamed and left alone again. No power will stand above truth. A cry rose from the people, approval, relief, release. Zelika was wrapped in cloth dyed with earth colors. A simple crown of woven grass was placed on her head. Not gold. Not heavy. Just enough. She felt the ancestors' presence like warm hands on her shoulders. Days passed. Under Zelika's guidance, the village changed. Elders spoke and were heard. Women's voices filled the council fire. Warriors protected instead of threatened. Children laughed freely again. The forest grew calm. The river sang clear songs. One evening, as the sun sank behind the mountains, Zelika walked alone to the edge of the village. She looked toward the distant path where Corrado had gone into exile. Her heart felt light, but not proud. I forgive you, she whispered to the wind. Not for him, but for herself. The wind carried the words away. That night, the ancestors came one last time in her dreams. The tall woman's spirit smiled. You learned the final truth. What truth? Zelika asked. That revenge that becomes cruelty is another chain, the spirit said. And dignity is the strongest power a human can hold. Zelika woke with tears on her face and peace in her chest. Years later, elders would tell this story by firelight. Drums would echo it into the night. Mothers would teach it to daughters. They would say, a woman was slapped and laughed at. But she did not answer with blood. She answered with truth. Moral lesson. Power without respect destroys itself. Revenge without wisdom poisons the soul. But dignity, patience, and truth, guided by the ancestors, can turn shame into destiny. And so, the village of Indam remembered. The loudest revenge is a life lived in honor. The sun sank low over Indam, painting the sky with blood-red light. Shadows grew long, stretching like fingers across the village ground. The events of the day sat heavily on every chest. Truth had spoken, power had fallen, but the fire of judgment was not yet done. Zelika stood by the river as evening came. The water moved gently, reflecting the sky's deep colors. Her hands trembled for the first time since the forest. Not from fear, but from what she felt inside. She had won. Yet her heart felt empty. Behind her, footsteps approached. Baba Kintu came slowly, leaning on his staff. Child, he said, the village stands at the edge of change. Zelika nodded. Change always asks for payment. A horn sounded from the center of the village. The elders were calling everyone again. Zelika followed Baba Kintu back, her feet heavy, her spirit watchful. A great fire had been lit beneath the baobab. Flames danced high, throwing sparks into the dark sky. Drums beat low and slow, judgment drums. Warriors stood in a wide circle. The people gathered, silent and tense. Corrado was brought forward. He no longer wore fine cloth. Only a simple wrap covered him. His head was bowed. His laughter was gone. Baba Kintu raised his staff. By ancient law, he said, a fallen chief must face the fire of truth. If his heart is fully rotten, the fire will claim him. If not, he will live in exile. A gasp moved through the crowd. Corrado lifted his head and looked at Zelika. For the first time, his eyes showed fear and regret. Zelika, he said hoarsely, I was blind. I was weak. Her chest tightened. Old love stirred like a dying ember. But she said nothing. The elders placed a glowing ember before Corrado. Smoke curled upward. The heat burned the air. Step forward, Baba Kintu commanded. Corrado hesitated. Then, slowly, he stepped toward the fire. The flames flared bright. Suddenly, a cry rang out. Stop! Zelika stepped into the circle. Gasps erupted. The drums faltered. Baba Kintu stared at her. Why do you interrupt sacred judgment? Zelika's voice shook, but she stood tall. Because hate has eaten enough, she said. Let him live. The fire crackled louder. Corrado fell to his knees, tears streaming. Why? He whispered. Zalika looked down at him. Because if I let the fire take you, it will take part of me too. The ancestors' wind passed through the fire. Flames bent low. A deep voice spoke from the heat itself. Mercy is the hardest justice. The ember dimmed. Baba Kintu lowered his staff. The spirits have heard, he said. Corrado will live, but he will walk without name or home. The warriors stepped forward and led Corrado away, toward the mountain path of exile. He did not look back. The fire softened. The drums slowed. Naomi, already driven out, screamed faintly from beyond the trees, then vanished into silence. Baba Kintu turned to Zalika. The village must choose a new path, he said. And it begins with you. The people looked at her with new eyes filled with respect, awe, and hope. Zalika felt the ancestors near again. The fire warmed her face. The climax had passed. But dawn would decide everything.